Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Do you ever feel like the world is lurching from one crisis to another? Financial meltdowns, a global pandemic, the looming threat of climate change, massive inequality. It can feel overwhelming. Today, we're diving into a book by someone who's been right at the heart of global finance and policy making, Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada. His book is called Values, Building a Better World for All, and it asks a fundamental urgent question. What happens when we confuse the price of everything with the value of everything? Carney argues that many of our biggest problems stem from a deep crisis in values. We've let market value, the price tag, dictate our societal values, our principles. We've moved from a market economy to a market society, where almost everything is up for sale. Using a great metaphor, he says we've distilled the rich wine of human values down to the harsh grappa of pure market self-interest. This book is about how that happened, what damage it's doing, and how we can turn that grappa back into wine. So, how did we get here? Carney takes us on a quick tour through economic history in the first part of the book. For centuries, thinkers like Aristotle, the medieval canonists, and even early classical economists like Adam Smith and Karl Marx generally believed value was somehow intrinsic, tied to the labor, land, or production costs involved. Ethics and the just price mattered. But then came a revolution. Neoclassical economics flipped the script. Value became subjective, determined by individual consumer preference and utility, revealed by the price mechanism. Value is in the eye of the beholder. This helped explain some things like why diamonds are expensive and water is cheap, through marginal utility. But Carney argues this view, taken to the extreme, leads us to believe that if something doesn't have a market price, it isn't valuable. Money, of course, is the measuring stick. Carney explores its evolution, from gold-backed currencies to modern fiat money backed by trust in institutions like independent central banks. He looks at how banking creates money and discusses the future, including crypto, stablecoins, and CBDCs, asking how we ensure these new forms serve the public good and retain trust. The culmination? We now live in a market society. The relentless focus on market price and efficiency, Carney argues, corrodes the very social capital, trust, fairness, solidarity that markets need to function well. We know the price of everything, but the value of maybe nothing intrinsically non-marketable? Carney argues this distortion of values isn't just theoretical. It's had devastating real-world consequences, which he explores through three major crises of the 21st century. He sees them all as fundamental crises of value. The 2008 global financial crisis wasn't just a technical failure, it was a moral one, driven by market fundamentalism. Think misaligned incentives, insane complexity hiding risk, too big to fail banks, and a detachment from the real economy. The subsequent reforms aimed to make the system safer and fairer, reasserting responsibility, but the scars on public trust remain deep. The pandemic exposed our systemic failure to value resilience. Despite warnings, we were unprepared because preparing doesn't offer immediate market returns. Carney critiques the cold calculus of putting a price on life versus the actual societal response, which overwhelmingly prioritized solidarity, fairness, and compassion, revealing deeper values than market logic often admits. But it also starkly exposed brutal inequalities. This Carney calls the ultimate tragedy of the horizon. We are undervaluing the future, treating nature as disposable because its destruction isn't fully priced. The carbon budget is shrinking fast. Financial markets are still largely failing to price climate risk correctly, risking a future climate Minsky moment. Breaking this tragedy requires urgent action across engineering, political will, and crucially, financial innovation, making climate a factor in every financial decision. So if market value alone has led us astray, how do we find our way back? How do we rebuild? Part 3 of the book focuses on reclaiming our core values. Carney emphasizes dynamism, resilience, sustainability, fairness, responsibility, solidarity, and humility. It starts with leadership. Not the great man myth, but leadership grounded in values. Leaders need purpose, perspective, especially seeing from the periphery, clarity, competence, and profound humility. They must build trust and empower others. Businesses need to rediscover their purpose beyond just maximizing shareholder value. Carney champions stakeholder capitalism, where companies create value for employees, customers, suppliers, and communities alongside shareholders. There's growing evidence this doing well by doing good actually leads to better long-term financial performance. Finance must change. Sustainable investing, or ESG, is moving mainstream. Investors need to align portfolios with societal goals like net zero and the Sustainable Development Goals. This requires better measurement, transparency, like TCFD for climate, and a rethink of fiduciary duty to include broader beneficiary values, not just maximizing financial return. Climate transition is becoming a huge investment opportunity. Finally, Carney outlines how nations, using Canada as a key example, can build strategies for inclusive and sustainable growth. This involves investing in people, lifelong learning, just transitions, ensuring fair markets, actively promoting sustainability, green infrastructure, carbon pricing, fostering social cohesion, and engaging globally through cooperative internationalism based on shared values, not just transactional deals. So, what's the big takeaway from Mark Carney's values? It's a powerful call to reassess what truly matters. For too long, we've allowed the narrow logic of market price, the financial grappa, to dominate our societies, often eroding the richer wine of human values like fairness, solidarity, and responsibility. The crises of the 21st century are stark warnings, but they also present an opportunity for a reset. By consciously rebuilding our systems through values-based leadership, purposeful companies, sustainable finance, and collaborative national and international action, we can create a world that is not only more prosperous, but also more just, resilient, and sustainable. It requires acknowledging our limitations, taking responsibility, and working together. It means putting human values back at the very heart of how we create economic value. It's about turning that grappa back into wine. What do you think? Can we redefine value? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this summary helpful, please support the channel. Subscribe for new book summary every Monday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Thanks for watching.